In October 2017, a telescope in Hawaii caught something moving through our solar system that had never been seen before and has never been seen since. It wasn't a comet, it wasn't an asteroid. It came from outside our solar system entirely, and by the time anyone noticed it, it was already leaving. We had days to study it before it was gone forever. And in those few days, it did six different things that shouldn't have been possible at the same time. Astronomers named it Oumuamua, a Hawaiian word roughly meaning scout or messenger from afar. And the reason that name stuck isn't poetic flourish. It's because some of the world's most respected astronomers still can't agree on what it actually was. Here's how it started. In October 2017, the Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii, built specifically to scan the sky for anything unusual, picked up a faint point of light moving on a trajectory no solar system object should follow. Most things orbiting the sun are bound to it, looping around in ellipses forever. This object was on a hyperbolic trajectory, meaning it came from interstellar space, swung past the sun once, and was already on its way back out, never to return. It was the first confirmed interstellar visitor in the history of astronomy. Telescopes around the world turned toward it immediately because everyone understood the same thing. This window would not stay open long, and what they found, piece by piece, got stranger every time. First, the shape. Based on how its brightness changed as it tumbled, astronomers calculated it was extremely elongated, possibly 10 times longer than it was wide. Picture something the size of a football field, but shaped more like a cigar or a flattened plate than any asteroid or comet ever recorded. Nothing that shape had ever been confirmed in our own solar system. Second, the tumbling. It wasn't spinning smoothly on one axis like most small bodies do. It was tumbling chaotically, end over end, in a way that suggested it had been struck or disturbed at some point in the last billion years and never settled back down. Third, and this is where things get genuinely difficult to explain, it accelerated. As Oumuamua left the solar system, it sped up slightly more than the sun's gravity alone could account for. For comets, this is normal. Comets are dirty snowballs, and as sunlight heats their surface ice, it vaporizes and jets outward, giving the comet a tiny rocket like push. Astronomers see this constantly. The problem is, that kind of outgassing should also produce a visible tail, or a coma, a fuzzy cloud of gas and dust around the object. Oumuamua had none, no tail, no coma, no detectable gas of any kind. Something was pushing it, and standard cometary activity couldn't explain how. This is where the paper trail gets interesting, because multiple serious research teams tried to solve this puzzle using only known physics, and each attempt ran into its own wall. One team proposed Oumuamua was made of frozen molecular hydrogen, essentially an iceberg of the simplest element in the universe, which could sublimate invisibly without producing a visible tail. It was creative. It was also almost immediately challenged because solid hydrogen ice is only stable at extremely cold conditions that are difficult to form and even harder to survive for the journey. Oumuamua would have taken across interstellar space. Another team proposed it was made of frozen nitrogen, similar to the surface ice found on Pluto, broken off from a Pluto like planet around another star. This explanation required an enormous amount of nitrogen ice, more than models suggest should exist in the places it would need to come from. In 2023, a new study proposed that trapped hydrogen gas, created by cosmic rays striking water ice over millions of years in deep space, could have leaked out and pushed the object without producing a visible tail. This one gained real traction and was published in a major journal, but it didn't end the debate. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb, one of the original scientists to study Oumuamua's acceleration, publicly disputed the calculations within a day, arguing the surface temperature in the new model was miscalculated by a significant margin, undermining its central conclusion. As of today, that disagreement has never been fully resolved in the literature. Each of these theories, hydrogen ice, nitrogen ice, trapped gas, requires a type of object never confirmed to exist anywhere, under conditions that stretch what we know about physics and chemistry. That's not speculation. That's the assessment several of the researchers made about their own proposals. And that brings us to the theory that made headlines around the world and made Avi Loeb one of the most talked about and most criticized scientists in modern astronomy. Loeb's reasoning was mathematical, not speculative. If the acceleration was caused by sunlight itself, pushing on the object like wind on a sail rather than gas jetting from its surface, the physics only works if the object is extremely thin, potentially less than a millimeter thick relative to its size. Nature does not appear to produce naturally occurring objects that thin. A membrane that large and that thin, Loeb argued, looks less like a rock and more like a solar sail, not necessarily an active spacecraft, possibly debris, a fragment of a much larger artificial structure, drifting derelict through the galaxy for millions of years. To be absolutely clear, Loeb has never claimed to have proof of alien technology. His position, stated repeatedly in peer reviewed work, is narrower and more careful than the headline suggested. Every natural explanation proposed so far has major quantitative shortcomings, and therefore the possibility of an artificial origin must be considered rather than dismissed outright. Most of Loeb's colleagues disagree with his conclusion, but not because the anomalies aren't real. They disagree on how to weigh an explanation nobody has ever confirmed exists in nature against an explanation that has never been confirmed either. Most astronomers assign an extremely low prior probability to anything artificial. Essentially, aliens are always the least likely explanation until every natural one is exhausted. The disagreement isn't about the data. Everyone agrees on what was measured. The disagreement is about how to interpret an object we only got to study for a few weeks, that we will never see again, and that we will never be able to send another mission to inspect. Because that's the part of this story that doesn't get resolved. Oumuamua is gone. It passed the orbit of Jupiter in 2018, and by now it's already further from the sun than Neptune, moving at over 25 kilometers per second, headed toward the constellation Pegasus, and it will never come back. Whatever it was, we don't get a second look. Every theory about it, the icebergs, the gas leaks, the solar sail, all of it has to be tested using the handful of weeks of data we already have. No new data is coming, which is why what happened next matters. Astronomers didn't just move on, they started asking a different question. If one interstellar object slipped through our solar system before anyone was really looking for them, how many others have we missed? New sky surveys, designed specifically to catch the next one faster, are already running, and more recent interstellar visitors have already been found, this time with astronomers ready from the very first hours, gathering the kind of data Oumuamua's discovery came too late to collect. Oumuamua may end up being remembered less as a mystery that was solved, and more as the object that changed how seriously we take the possibility that we are not the only ones sending things through the galaxy, intentionally or not. For now, the honest answer is the same one astronomers gave in 2017. We don't fully know what Oumuamua was. Every explanation on the table requires something we've never confirmed exists. And the object that could have settled the question left before we finish asking it. If unexplained cases like this are the reason you're here, this channel exists for exactly this. Real documented mysteries, the wow signal, Tabby's star, and more like them every week, told straight, with every speculation clearly labeled as speculation. Subscribe if you want the next one in your feed. And before you go, if Oumuamua really was a fragment of something built by another civilization, drifting for millions of years before it happened to pass through our solar system, what do you think it was part of? Let me know in the comments.